Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we are on episode 5 of Bungo Stray Dogs Season 4. A Perfect Murder and Murderer Part 2. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this season so far, mainly because I like Rampo, and I love him even more now that we've had the flashback of him in Fukuzawa. And I love Poe and Rampo together, and so the idea of them gallivanting around, solving a crime together, it's like, and it being an extended version of their previous experiences together, mwah, chef's kiss. I'm just absolutely adoring it. And we've got connections in the OP to the guy that Fukuzawa talked to in the jail cell with Oda. It's just like, when things tie together with characters, it's a beautiful thing in a series, and I'm absolutely living for it. So I'm all about it, right? Very happy, very excited. So there's that. But yeah, so I really, in all honesty, don't have a lot of comments to talk about. We've been talking on Patreon and YouTube about various things. Someone pointed out, I think it was Claudia Claudino, you have a very long YouTube handle, and I wish I'd wrote it down, was talking about how you see Oda with the Bible in the flashback for episode 3, and then later he spouts a Bible verse to Geed when he's facing him, and I'm like, oh, that's a great tie-in. But also, it's been kind of brought to the attention for all of us commenting that Oda is kind of this weird connector with everyone. And Odasaku, if you couldn't tell, is my favorite character for Bungo Stray Dogs. Odasaku is my favorite. I love him. He's the best. But he is kind of the connector. It's like 6 degrees of Odasaku, right? Because you have him meeting Fukuzawa, you have him meeting Rampo, both in the flashback and later on in the Dark Era before he dies. And then you have his connection with Dazai. He knows Chuya. He knows Akutagawa. It's like he knows Natsumi. He's connected to all these characters that are like at the foundation of the story, and he kind of glues them all together through their encounters with him. So it's kind of fascinating, right? The only one we really don't see Odasaku with is Fyodor. That's the only one we really, villain-wise. So, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what we're going to get with Fyodor this season. Because you know he's the bad guy. He's the villain, right? He's the main one. Like, Fitzgerald's not really a villain anymore. He's just kind of like a vigilante. But Fyodor is our mysterious antagonist. Because even though we've seen his power in action, we know virtually nothing about it. So, but yeah, Mushitaro, who is our poor antagonist of this story, has made a poor decision in letting Rampo in his sphere. Because it's like, once you let Rampo into the bubble, it's over. He's going to solve the case. And I was talking to Sarah Linda in the comments. I'm torn either way. There's a part of me that could see this show for the comedy aspect, playing up that it's all just happenstance and coincidence, and Rampo doesn't really know Mushitaro and his connection and all this, and then it's going to come out and him being like, oh, well, that was a fun coincidence. You're the murderer. Let's go. Or it's a very calculated decision. Now, I'm going to lean towards the latter, that it's a calculated move, that Rampo planned all of this out, because that seems like a Rampo thing to do. And then he'll explain it to all of us later. But if it turns out to not be the case, I'm not going to feel bad. I'm not really going to be surprised. So I'm good either way. But, oh, Mushitaro, honey, you don't know what you've done. And meanwhile, Poe trying to cheer him up, the best. Poe and Rampo as a duo, chef's kiss. I love their banter. I love them with Carl. It's the most precious. And I'd watch a whole season of just Rampo solving mysteries, but I know we'll need Dazai and the others to come back eventually. We'll get them. But I'm excited, y'all. I can't wait. So I got home from work and was like, you know what? It's time to watch Bungo Stray Dogs. And that's what we're going to do. So we are going to start Bungo Stray Dogs season 4, episode 5, and we are going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do this. Well, it's Bungo Stray Dogs. Why are we not surprised? What kind of roller coaster was that episode? I was like all intrigued about Mushitaro and Rampo solving the crime without using his ability, and let me phrase it this way, Rampo solving the crime, 1, without an ability, and 2, with reality altering abilities in play. Like Rampo solving it on his own with Poe's help was so good, and I was like, oh, awesome. But then you get like the emotional hurdle of the fact that the author was dying of a terminal disease and maybe was probably friends with Mushitaro, and Mushitaro killed him out of respect for his friend. And then you're like, oh, well, this is okay, you're starting to tug at some heartstrings, Bungo Stray Dogs. And then Rampo being like, here, this will get you a job at this other agency. And it's like, well, Rampo just wants to help him, even though he's also getting Kunikida out of the way. And then all of a sudden, Nikolai shows up, this mofo, that I'm like, wait, what? It kills Mushitaro! So, what the hell? Decay of the Angels. We'll talk about Decay of the Angels. Oh my gosh. His voice actor sounded really familiar. It wasn't Miyano Mamoru, was it? I don't think it was. His voice actor sounded super familiar. I was like, it's not Miyano though. I was like, wait, where am I? I've heard that voice before, but I can't place it. So I know people in the comments will tell me who the voice actor is. I'm like, oh, but his character, what the fudge? Fjordor, what have you done? So I thought it was House of the Dead Rats, but maybe that's the title, and this is I don't even know at this point. But I'm excited to find out, right? I'm excited to figure out what the hell's going on, because we're getting a lot of characters, I feel, introduced in this season, which I'm a little concerned about. I'm like, we got a lot of characters, because we got the 5 that are not dressed up like vampires from Seraph of the End. I feel like Nikolai looks like a crossover of a character from Bleach and Seraph of the End. Like that's what it looks like, right? I was like, hold on, what we doing? And then which Fjordor could be a Bleach character, if I'm being honest. But yeah, what the hell? This episode. So the bright red envelope being the key, and where the perpetrator get the envelope and the manuscript, and they got him from the author that he murdered. So, man, you know what? I was starting to feel for Mushitaro. I really was. I was feeling for this little diva. I was like, look at him. Because he was such a fun antagonist. Nikolai seems like he's off his rocker. So what? Okay, so we need to establish some organizations that we're getting here. We got the ADA up here, right? And the ADA, all that we know that's going on in the aftermath of Fjordor from the last season, all we know is that Kunikida was convicted and now he's free. That's literally all we know about the ADA at this point. That's it. We don't know what Dazai's up to. We don't know what Atsushi's been up to. We don't know what anybody else has been doing except for Rampo. Him and Kunikida are the only ones we've seen from the ADA so far. Everybody else, total mystery. Then we have the Port Mafia. We have the Port Mafia in on this. They are a big old question mark. No clue about them. No clue at all, right? No idea what Akutagawa's doing. He was supposed to kill Atsushi in 6 months, and Atsushi told him not to kill anybody in that time, so what he's been doing, we don't know. We don't know how long it's been since the events that happened. We don't know how long it's been since Kunikida was convicted and put in jail. No clue. So we don't know what they're up to, right? Then we have the Guild, where we have the Guild and their whole ticket. And we know that Poe is helping Rampo. Last time we checked, back in season 3, Fitzgerald was kind of going solo / with Luisa. What's her face? The girl that has a, oh gosh, not Pollyanna, but she has the ability to create the space, right? Her and Atsushi were friends. We know that the redhead, I'm just put redhead because her name has escaped me and I feel bad for forgetting about her, but she is just working away from the Guild. Lovecraft went back into the ocean to go back to sleep. And as far as we know, Steinbeck is currently the leader. So, but that's all stuff from last season. As of right now, this is the only current event that we know about, is that Poe's helping Rampo. Him and Carl just doing their thing. So we've got that. Then we have the House of the Dead Rats, which we also are connecting now to the Decay of the Angels, which is kind of funny because this whole thing with the Decay of the Angels, we know that Nikolai is involved. He's a member. This whole Decay of the Angels thing kind of goes back to the play, right? It goes back to the play that we saw in the flashback episodes where it was the angels, and the angels were being referred to as the gifted. Which makes a lot of sense because Fyodor's whole MO is that he wants to destroy gifted users. The irony is that he's using his gift to destroy the gifted. It's like, you know, pot calling the kettle black and then deciding you're going to destroy the kettle. It's like, But yeah, so the idea that the decay of the angels is that we're going to destroy the angels. Okay, we're going to destroy the gifted. And notice, these 4 groups are all gifted users, right? They are all gifted that we know of. Gifted users, all of them. Okay. What's funny is there are 4 groups here, so it would only make sense if we had a 5th group. It would only make sense if we did that. But the question is, I'm torn on what that 5th group is. You could argue that it's the government that has Ango in it, Ango and the president, but they're not all gifted, so I'm not going to say that that's the case. Ango just happens to work for the government that has gifted within it, but they're not a gifted organization. I'm going to say that it's this group of mysterious guys led by the man that knows Fukuzawa. The guy with the scratches on his face, right? Has like the cat scratches. I'm going to say this is our 5th group, right? We got 5 groups of gifted users, one of which is trying to get rid of all the others. And they just happen to be called 5, which is a Roman numeral. Okay. So I'm going to say it could be them, or you could say it is, if we're going with the Guild and the House of the Dead Rats, you could also say, or it could be Agatha Christie's, the Clock Tower group. Agatha Christie's group. If it's not them, it could be them. Maybe this group is Agatha Christie's group. I don't know. We don't know yet. I don't want to know. I don't want to be spoiled. We'll find out, I'm sure, this season. They're in the OP. So we're going to figure out who they are. I don't think, though, if the Cat Scratch Man's in there, I don't think that they're part of Agatha Christie's group, but I feel like they're a group of gifted users as well. So we just got a whole bunch of pieces on the chessboard, right? And Fyodor's just trying to snuff all of them out, right? Trying to snuff all of them out with his ability. And they just got rid of Mushitaro like it was nothing. Like Fyodor just Fyodor doesn't care about the well-being of anybody working for him. I feel like Fyodor is a user and he's just going to use you until you're not useful anymore, and then he's going to discard you, right? He's just going to use you, get it over with, and then leave you. Like, hit it and quit it. Fyodor. Right? So I do love this whole thing with Rampo and him, and then we get the OP. I'm going to go back to this OP and actually look through it now. I know I'm going to look through it when we do the actual episodes themselves. But yeah, we've got this group of people but one person in the group looked like they had white hair, so at first I kind of thought it was them. But no, then we have these guys that look like, but there's only 2 in the OP of them. So why? Why is there only 2? I thought there was supposed to be the Decay of the Angels. I thought there'd be 5 group members because they're called 5. It's boy band logic, right? If we're called 5, we have to have 5 members of the group. Every boy band has 5 members, right? So why is there only 2? And if you have Fyodor, that's only 3. What the hell? And why is there a coffin? What is happening? There's one guy that looks like he's from Dead Apple, and then there's Nikolai, which I'm all about. I'm not going to look up Nikolai because obviously I don't know his last name yet. We'll find out, I'm sure, when we figure out what his ability is. Somebody has a teleporting ability. I thought that was said I think in the trailer that I watched, there was something about there being a teleportation ability. Why are there all the flowers with Fyodor? What the hell's going on? Why is Dazai with him? Get away from him. But okay, back to the episode. Freaking Poe. I love Poe. People were saying in the comments that since he works for the guild and has all this money at his disposal, Poe is a rich man, which is kind of funny because it's sort of the opposite of the author, Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe is not very wealthy in real life, but he has all like the fancy clothes, like the equestrian boots and everything, because he has money. I think that's adorable. I also like that Poe is so dead set on helping Rampo solve the mystery. And I like that the police officer is like, hey, rival. Like, almost like he's teasing him, like, sure, rival. You're really his rival helping him there, aren't you? And it's their boyfriend code. Leave them alone. But I love that. I love that him and Carl are working so hard to help Rampo solve the mystery. But Rampo's already got it. And so I also like that this one girl that's with the police officer, she doesn't like him smoking. She kind of comments on it. It's kind of funny. But yeah. Also, what the hell? So he says that when they found the author, that she got like the little doll and on it were his ears. What the hell? Like what is happening? Because the doll was carrying human ears. The author was an exceptionally talented detective writer. So it almost seems like the stuff that happened to him afterwards was all after the fact. Now, did Mushitaro string him up like that? That looks like a Fjord. That seems like a Fjordor thing to do. I don't know. Okay. So in the novel, breaking this down, in the novel, the murderer was an old acquaintance. Who was motivated by pent up anger. Okay. That was how it was in the novel, right? I like that occasionally we see Poe's face occasionally, and we see his eyes. Super creepy. He's like exactly as Rampo had deduced. But, okay. I want to go back to that one page and see what it said, right? What did it say back there? We got like a translation of the words, and then they were cut out. It says, it was at that moment when my colleague uttered those words that I became certain that a perfect murder does indeed exist. And it says the end, and the end is blurred. As soon as we saw the droplets on the page, I figured they were tears. But then I was like, I thought they were the author's tears, like as he was being strangled, he was crying, or that he confessed something important to Mushitaro that would affect Mushitaro. I wondered if they were more than just acquaintances, if they were friends, just from the way the last images of them had been in the last couple episodes. But the funny thing is, it ends up being Mushitaro's tears. And I was like, oh, okay. So I thought it was the author's at first, but no, it was Mushitaro crying because he killed his friend. That's sad. And then he says, are these water droplets? And then he realizes, and then Poe needs to get his eyes checked to realize that was a photocopy and not the original manuscript. Like, I work in an office where we have copiers. You can tell a real copy from a fake pretty easily. So Poe, you need to get on that, dude, for not noticing that it was a photocopy that he did quite handily at the print shop at the bookstore. Also, I'm sorry, but Poe having a ringtone that is a raven caw, absolutely hilarious. That was the best. I was like, where's this cawing come from? And for it to be his ringtone, chef's kiss all around. I loved it. And then the phone call is what Rampo-kun. I love that by the end of it, Mushitaro and Poe are both like, Rampo-kun. Like, I just make that my ringtone, right? I like the police officer's like, why were you surprised? He's like, I don't. This part was a little bit sad where he says, I don't receive calls very often. I'm like, oh, Poe. Which to be fair, Rampo does not seem somebody that uses technology, especially to communicate with people. I think Rampo would be much more likely to use a carrier pigeon than he would be to text or call someone. That just does not seem up Rampo's alley. Rampo does not seem social in that way. So he would need to show up to see Poe, right? He's not going to call or text him. But that is kind of sad that Poe's like, I don't receive very many calls. And then that's when he notices that Rampo has called him to try to catch the murderer. And he's like, I have evidence, which is the original manuscript. He's like, it was hidden away. And now it all... I love when series take characters like Rampo and have him do silly things, but the silly things in hindsight have a reason why they were done. I feel like they've done this with Dazai in this series, and I've seen them do it with other characters in other series. But with Rampo, yeah, he's knocking over stuff and acting a fool, and everybody's like, oh, it's just kind of weird. But no, he had an ulterior motive. He was trying to locate the manuscript because he had a sneaking suspicion it was hidden. He's like, it was at the gift shop. I checked inside the envelope as soon as I got it. For some reason, just the last page was a photocopy. Was it so they could keep the original? Yes. Yeah, the whole point was that he was wanting to keep the original. He was going to go back and get it because it stained with his tears. And the point of it is, he's like, well, we could have proven it was tear stained, but we never would have been able to match the tears with anybody's. So it's not like it was evidence against him. He just wanted to keep it out of sentimentality. It's like, oh, my dude. At that point, it's like becomes clear. He's like, if that were the case, he would have copied all the pages. But that's when he realized they printed it out in a hurry right before it was handed off. And so, yeah, he goes back to the stationery shop. I love that he's checking. I love that woman's just kind of looking and being like, yes, you can check our copier, young sir, I guess. And he concludes it was the same. The attacker was in a hurry to swap out the original with the copy. Why would he do that? He could have just thrown it away. Because there's a reason to hand over all the pages. I love that Mushitaro is just getting like more and more agitated as it goes. He's just getting more and more frustrated. The last page would have been thrown out, but they couldn't risk being searched, so they hid it somewhere. And he's like, oh, so you found the hidden manuscript. And he says, I became certain that the person was behind both incidents. And then he like points him out. I love that Rampo figured it all out. Our detective didn't, like, against all odds, with a reality-altering ability against him, still figured it out. I'm like, look at that. Look at you, Rampo-kun. I've really come to like his character more than I have the last 2 seasons of him in this one, because we just have gotten so much into his character. I love it. Now, I love that this one guy who seems to be working for Fyodor, he ends up being fine. He's not shot. It's the police officer that's shot. And so he says, I hate cargo for 3 reasons. Cargo that's loud, cargo that brings trouble, and cargo, what does he say? Cargo that's loud, cargo that brings trouble, and cargo that doesn't pay. And then Rampo, I like Rampo is like, anytime you bring a gun into a situation, people become idiots. I love it. Rampo's not about that life. He's not about using a gun to solve anything, right? Or a weapon, for that matter. Or a weapon. And so, yeah, he's like, I will leave. Granted, he's like, I'll get out of here as soon as you all realize that you've been cornered by the police. I was like, of course, it's great. The problem is that they try to get around it. And I feel like it's such a cop-out, pun intended. Also, okay, before we get to that, he's like, Rampo is showing him the phone. He has Poe as his profile picture of him and Carl. And I like that Rampo is not paying any attention, and Carl's over there like, hey, I'm right in front of you. Look, it's me. It's Poe. And Rampo's like, yeah, no. See, look, here's how I did it. Not paying a bit of attention. I feel for Poe. He's got his hands full. Dealing with Rampo-kun, that is freaking precious. And I love it's just Poe. But yeah, he's had him on the line for over 7 minutes, the entire time hearing the whole thing. And then, yeah, the police is like an anticlimactic end to the criminals of the century. And you can hold a review session. And I like that this guy, again, using the legislative tape, saying, I'm an official diplomat and this car has foreign service plates, so you're not in the jurisdiction to arrest us. I'm like, really? Really? And I like that Poe brings up, he's like, we're in an ongoing murder investigation. Your privileges shouldn't have any meaning here. I'm like, yeah, that's right, Poe, you tell him. But Rampo guesses correctly that this has something to do with Fyodor. And he's like, no. And so, yeah, the gun was an empty threat. It wasn't even loaded. I like that Rampo akins the gun as an empty threat with Fyodor's plans. Like, he just acknowledges that they're one and the same, right? that they look dangerous, but half the time they're an empty threat. There's nothing really behind them. It's all psychological, right? I like that. I like the idea that he akins it to Fyodor, being like, this is mostly like just an illusion, a psychological attack. There's not really anything. You didn't have an actual threat against me. You didn't actually have any cards. It was like when you're holding you're bluffing in poker. You're holding up a bad hand, but calling the bluff of the other person. So Rampo's like, you really didn't have anything to get me. You were just trying to use this empty threat instead. Like, and then, yeah. And Mushitaro, he's like, so long, Rampo-kun. Say hi to your coworker in prison for me. And that's when Rampo, I like that Poe's like, what do we do? And then he's like, okay, we're going to activate my trump card. I didn't realize that Poe could activate his ability within cell phones. I did not think that was possible. I was like, how? When we saw the text on the screen, I'm like, well, that's an ability, but what is it? But to know that it was Poe's ability through the cell phone is actually hilarious. I love it. And then Rampo's like, I have to solve this case because my coworkers think I'm invincible. Oh, that is just that cut to the core, because there's Poe in the middle of all of them, and he's holding his hat like for Rampo, or that's Rampo in the middle. For Rampo, he's like, my coworkers believe I have this amazing ability, even if Yosano has been like, sure you do. But it's not whether the fact he's gifted or not. That's the thing. He says, my coworkers think I'm invincible. Not that they think I'm gifted. But he's like, not that they think I have an ability, but he's like, they think I'm unstoppable. That if I'm going to solve a case, I'm going to solve it. It goes back to him telling Kunikida, being like, I'm going to get you out of jail because I have to. I owe that to the little girl. I owe it to you. So Rampo's saying, like, this isn't about proving if I'm gifted or not. This is because my teammates are relying upon me, and I made a promise to help, and I'm not going to go back on my word. I love that. I love that so much. And then I love that Poe lets him use his ability. And so he kind of reverses the scene with the author on him. And so he reveals that it's Poe's reality. He's like, this is from the Guild's Gifted. Which is a little bit, again, but Fyodor got all of the information about the agency's agents, except, Rampo was included because he doesn't have an ability. But Fyodor got all of that from the Port Mafia. So it would stand to reason that they would also have gotten information about the guild as well, right? And he said, we're inside Poe's novel. And the thing about Poe's novel is you have to solve the mystery in order to leave, and you don't have any evidence. And he's like, as soon as I clear the facts, I can return to my car in the real world. And that's when Rampo's like, once I quit speaking, you're going to turn yourself in. I love when characters do that. He's like, yeah, you think you've got me in a chokehold, but the reality is I'm about to say something that's going to make you completely change your tune. I love it. And so then, we go into the explanation about the killing of Kindaichi. The killing of Kindaichi doesn't work if the author reveals the gimmick to anyone other than the murderer. So that's the idea here. The idea is that the gimmick, the trick, only works if only the murderer knows from the author. That's the trick. So Bungo Stray Dogs likes to go in kind of a roundabout way about solving these crimes, and you kind of have to be like, what's happening? But they go through it. He says the murderer had to have been unique, which is why at one point I deduced that the motive was a personal grudge. So the idea is that the murderer has to be unique. Something sets them apart from others, which makes them the must-be murderer. And so he says, but this is worse. To leave your escape as an afterthought to the murder is practically self-destruction. So why then? He's like, why? There are only two motivations that could have for driving a person to self-destruction: insanity and duty. So he's basically saying the murderer had a duty. Because I don't think that Mushitaro was insane. And the thing about it is that At first I said Fyodor in the reaction, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, I was thinking about it as he was explaining the murder. I was like, no, Mushitaro wanted to go do this. This was what he was let out to do by Fyodor, but this wasn't Fyodor's order. The murder wasn't. This was something Mushitaro wanted to do himself. And so take your pick, Yokomizo. Stabbing, poisoning, strangling, or beating. How do you want it done? He said, I'd have to say stabbing. Poisoning would require the reader to have a knowledge of chemistry. It wouldn't be fair. I like that. I like that he's like, no, the reader would have to know chemistry in order for the poisoning to work, so it's not as accessible of mystery. And he's like, you filthy hack. No one's talking about your novel. It's talking about how I'm going to kill you. And now it all makes sense because he's like, how do you want me to kill you since you say you have to die, right? And you're going to anyway. He's like, but give me some murder ideas. I'm not going to make my deadline this month. Is it weird that all of like the shut-in authors have like the curly fro hair? I'm thinking there's a character in Mob Psycho 100 that also has kind of a fro like that, and his character is sort of a shut-in. So I was like, is that a trope? Mystery novels are just insider games that are bound by external rules. Dying messages, gimmicks, enclosed spaces. I like that we never see the author's face. We just see their mouth and like the outline of it, but we never really see his face. It's kind of bizarre and creepy and also stylistically really interesting. I like it. And he says, if you want puzzles, go solve some math equations or something. Your distaste for mystery novels hasn't changed since we were in school. So yeah, the thing of it is that Mushitaro and him, they were friends. They knew each other since they were in school together. And for him to say that Mushitaro hates murder novels is hilarious. And he's like, it's your fault that I hate them. I'm like, they were so close. And the moment that we start to see this in the episode, I'm like, oh no, the twist of him actually liking the novelist. And then you're like, well, why would he kill him? And then you find out the reason. That it's all he's like meta mysteries, anti-mysteries. No matter how unique a mystery you put onto the world, it's just shoved into one category or another. The ultimate mystery can't exist. And then I like that Mushitaro was like, what are we getting all existential here? And so yeah, and then they just sit there and chit chat. He's like, I couldn't help but spill the beans. And then Mushitaro says, you always change the subject at the end of the debate. No wonder you've never had any friends. And then he's like, you don't have any either. Like they're each other's friends, right? When they mentioned the thing about suicide, at first I thought it was because they were having this talk about them not having friends and being lonely. And I was like, oh, this took a really dark turn. But then they said he had a terminal disease. And it's like, oh, we're still taking a really dark turn. It's just less self-loathing and more, you're going to die. He says, that's right. I killed him. I choked him to death with these bare hands. But the thing about it is that he says, so what now? I confessed to my crime, so there's nothing you can do. And he says, you never killed him. In the final chapter, the motive was described to be a personal grudge. But that doesn't make sense, does it? If you were the one who killed him, not only would you have copied the plot gimmick, but the motive as well. And he's like, and you didn't do that. It's too perfect. It would practically be a script. The killing of Kindaichi was a comedy that he both wrote and starred in himself. He killed himself. What a stupid way it turned out to be, but it was highly effective. Yeah, and so that's the thing. Yeah, it was get this toy for Huckleberry. That's what ended up being. He wanted to die himself. So it wasn't really his murder. He's like the ultimate uncategorizable, one-of-a-kind mystery. A mystery that leaks into the real world. And then he finds out that his friend only has a year left to live. And he's like, I'm going to complete the ultimate mystery novel. And I've already finished my preparations. Except the key piece, I need the murderer. And so that's when he hires Mushitaro to do it. So yeah, even though Mushitaro technically killed him, he wasn't the murderer. Kindaichi chose to murder himself and just have Mushitaro do it. So it's not really, that part of the episode, just that twist. And of course, the animation making Mushitaro look crazy, right? He's like, well, yeah, I get the money for selling the manuscript and I get all of that. Why would I refuse? And he says that he killed him, and Rampo's just like, then why'd you hide this page? He's like, because you cared about him. He's like, you can try to frame it any other way that you want to, but that's not really what happened, was it? And then, and the fact that he thanks him at the end of it, and he's like, forensics could not determine they were your tears, but he's like, if I reveal the truth, if I reveal that all of this was faked and it wasn't, you know, how the readers expected it to be a murder mystery, he's like, it's going to ruin your friend's name. If I leak out the truth, then his reputation is going to be ruined and the murder mystery is going to be completely muddied. And you don't want that for your friend, because that would make everything that you did, you killing him for him, have no meaning. It's like, he's like, do you want me to? It's like, it's just such a blackmail. And Rampo's like, I don't care. He's like, but you care about your friend. So there we go. And so then at this point here, he says it might be pointless to try to solve it if it can't be solved, right? And he's like, as soon as readers start to think that way, the value of taking on the challenge plummets and your friend's final wish will be muddied. And then I love this screen gets black. And he's like, the agency was once defeated by Fyodor. We're not going to be defeated again. I feel like the Who comes on, We Won't Be Fooled Again starts playing. I won't let you hurt anyone in the agency. Bold words! I'm a little bit nervous about Rampo saying that because already Mushitaro's been killed and he's warned them that these people are after his agency. So I'm like, Rampo, don't make promises you can't keep, dude. Don't do that. He's like, I memorized and assimilated the demon himself. If you don't turn yourself in, I'll go public with that hypothesis. This isn't detective work. It's a demonic mind control invading your mind. Oh, my new weapon for killing detective killers. I love that. All the red and everything. And then there we go. He says, don't make it public. I despise Yokomizo. It's not possible that I don't. Just lying to yourself, dude. Come on. And then they say Kunikida is going to be released. And so the dummy corpse, they find out, is one... says there wasn't any biological activity detected in the wound on his face. And they're like, yeah, it was a corpse that Fyodor supplied. It had nothing to do with Mushitaro. The only one Mushitaro killed was the author. So then he gives him this card. He says, I don't want to bother throwing it out. You can have it. And it says, Kuga Shizuku. And he says, he's like, what's this employee ID? He says, the company is a front for an anti-government organization. So there's an anti-government organization. Okay. So the idea was with this anti-government organization. The idea is that the company was a front for it and that a gifted special ops division agent is working undercover there, which is Ango, right? So, okay. So a gifted special ops person. So that must be Ango, correct? Ango's working there. Okay, so Ango's working undercover with this anti-government agency and their cover's about to get blown. Oh! So their cover is about to be blown. And he's sending him to go tamper with the evidence to get him out of there. Okay, that was what he's like, go help them. He's like, why me? He says the agent is in charge of hiring at that division. Yes. So if you go, he's like, I don't care what happens to the agent, which is funny. He doesn't care about Ango at all. But if they learn about your ability, they'll be obliged to hire you. He gave him an out. He's like, if you go, then the government agency will hire you. And that's your way to get away from Fyodor. Oh, Rampo-kun! Like that was him just trying to help him, right? So Ango's like about to get his cover blown by this anti-government agency. And then he says, I promised, didn't I? That I'd help you find work if you ever needed it. Oh. And then, yeah. He's like, and then we hear the author's voice saying, I bet you'd laugh at me for trying to master mystery novels, even if it means sacrificing myself. But when you start going down that path, you realize there really is nothing whose value is immutable. After all, the greatest luxury afforded to being a human being is the right to make the world itself their choice. So yeah, the idea of free will and the right to live is like the greatest thing you can do while you're human. Man. I like that Rampo burns up the little manuscript page and like grips his fist afterwards. It's great. But then, no time for that. We got like 3 minutes left in this episode. Forget that. We're just gonna jump right into it, right? We're just gonna jump right into it and go to this area where as soon as the car stopped and there was smoke ahead, I was like, bad things are about to happen. Like that's the warning sign in this series. If you see smoke, run. There's a fire and you're about to be caught up in it. Nope, get out of there. And there was an accident. And the moment this one guy started running towards them and had the silver hair, I was like, nope, he has weird hair. It's distinct. It's like the cop from episode 3. Get out of there. He's gonna kill you. And we've seen Fyodor Dawn police officer outfits as well. So that was from back in season 3. Nope. And he's like, it's a murder. Who's the victim? You. And then we see the portal open up and there's the gun with the hat, but like, that's not his ability though, right? It's someone else's ability, right? What? Yeah, Mushitaro was like, holy shit, this gun appeared out of thin air. And then, I'm glad that he got out what he did while this guy is rambling. What the hell? And then, of course, he's like, it's quiz time. No, it's not. Nope. What is this? What is this dude? He looks like something off Seraph the End and Bleach. I'm not joking. He's like, who might I be? And I like Mushitaro's like, I'm not here to play with clowns. I don't like clowns. He's like, my name's Nikolai. Oh my God. And the next question, like, he almost seems like he has a split personality. Like, what is happening? Why am I here? I'm cleanup duty. And his eyes are weird. His eyes have like a weird cross in them. Why? And cleanup duty. And he's like, oh, I gave away the answer. Never mind. And Mushitaro was like, what the hell? My duty is to get rid of those who know about our next project. Okay. So are they the anti-government organization that are trying to like out Ango? Is that the situation? Maybe, maybe not. It's no fun if someone gives the answer after all. Yeah, okay. He seems like he would be somebody that would want to rival and go up against Rampo. Seems like it, even though he's dressed like a clown. What the hell? And an hour, he's like, well, you're with Fyodor. And he says, indeed, we are the decay of the angels. And terrorists lurking in this land. The 5 angels are here to tell of the end of the God's world. Okay, so there are 5 of them. Okay, which is the group 5. Okay, yep. So Nikolai is one. Fyodor is another. There was one in the OP that had the long hair. We don't know the other 2 members. Yikes. I'm not getting good vibes, Cotton. And Mushitaro's like, Mushitaro's like, screw it. If I'm going to die, I'm going to go out telling Rampo about this. And then he says, Rampo-kun, the agency's about to get a huge job offer. Don't accept it. If you do, it'll be the end of the agency. Don't accept it. And then he's shot. And Rampo's like, what the hell? And then we have the really cute CED. What? Excuse me? Excuse me, sir? What the hell? Oh, y'all, Why? It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Oh, man. Yeah, so that was fun. It was a great time. I really enjoyed the episode, although I'm sad Mushitaro is dead, apparently. Possibly. Probably. I don't know who the hell this Nikolai guy is. He seems a bit chaotic and crazy. Not sure how I feel about that. And we really have no clue what anybody's been up to, honestly. These last 2 episodes have been a lot of fun, but they've literally just been Poe and Rampo solving a detective case. And we know Kunikida was locked up, so we know nothing about what's happening with any of these characters right now. Like the present, we have no clue what's going on. So, what do we do? What do we do? So, I just feel like we're about to meet a whole bunch of characters, and I'm really excited. So, I do not want to know anything about the manga. I don't want to know about, there's been some people throw around being like, I don't know if they'll get everything adapted in this season. I don't want to know anything about it. You spoiler tag all that, black box that nonsense. I don't want to know. I want nothing to do with the manga. If we don't get whatever is supposed to happen in this arc and they have to split it into 2 parts, I don't want to know. I want to go in as blind as I can. But, oh my gosh. So, before we end this episode, though, I do want to do a quick shout out. I have a philanthropy tier on Patreon for people that are wanting to support me extra. I appreciate any support. If you're donating $1 to be in the Discord, thank you. If you're donating $5 to get stuff a week before everybody else, thank you. And to participate in some of the polls, thank you. If you are donating $10 to give me extra money to help pay for Streamable and the services that I use, thank you. But part of the philanthropy tier is to get a special shout out here in some of these videos. And so thank you to our philanthropy tier members, Edgar, Larry Manning, Dana, and Anime Annie. You all are wonderful, and I really am glad for all of the support on Patreon. You all are wonderful, but especially for you 4 as well, for giving me some extra love and support. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. So thank you. But helps me enjoy series like Bungo Stray Dogs even more. So I really appreciate y'all. But I'm going to go back and rewatch the episode now because that was a lot of fun. So I hope y'all enjoy this reaction discussion. And I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yes, I'll be back very soon with more Bungo Stray Dogs. Bye.